Okay, welcome to Tuning into Pride 2023 and LGBT Music Industry Roundtable. My name is Dave Ogan. I'm the head of third-party partnerships at the MLC, and I curate with my collaborators these cultural conversations, bringing in music creators and music industry professionals from various groups. Today, we're celebrating Pride Month with this conversation with a number of exciting artists and our wonderful moderators, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. Just a few housekeeping items. Number one, if you would like to pose a question for any of our panelists or our moderators, please use the Q&A icon located at the bottom of the screen in the middle. You'll see the letters Q and A, and you can post your question there, and the moderators will get to the question towards the end of the discussion. Secondly, in the chat box, let's try to, leave the, if you want to have a conversation, please not be disruptive. Allow our speakers and our moderators to have the floor. But the chat box is also a great place to add some commentary to some of the points that are being made. So if you want to give kudos or props to one of the points that the speakers are making, the chat box is ready for that. Make sure to select the everyone drop down next to the two. Okay, so we have quite a few people in the room now. I'm going to get started with the conversation. So first, I would like to introduce one of our moderators, Nick Larsson Billett. If you can come on screen here. Nick is a songwriter, producer, and artist manager. As a writer, he has written for many artists, indie and major labels all over the world. His credits include Spinnin' Records, Sony, Warner, Armada, Universal, EMI, Sesame Studios, Nickelodeon, and many more, with artists such as Rain Yang, Cindy Wang, Salou, Faye, Anson Lo, OWV, and many more. His management company, Almost Royal, houses a diverse roster of clientele while mainly catering to the queer community. Nick prides himself on his excellent relationship with his clients, who he considers family. Thank you for joining us, Nick. Also, welcome to the screen, YawnyBlew. YawnyBlew, who is a MLC member, is the eccentric artist persona of singer-songwriter Johnny Gonzalez, hoping to bring a diversity and dynamic to the mainstream that he saw was missing from behind the scenes. YawnyBlew began as a pandemic side quest that has become a main mission in recent years. Mixing nostalgic production with cinematic songwriting and vibrant visuals, the focus is always to center voices and perspectives, seldom in the forefront. So as a songwriter, Johnny is attached to upcoming projects from Keon Lonsdale, Dylan Burnside, Mary Blue, Cam Anthony, and more. Thank you for joining us, both of you. Appreciate you taking the time to lead this conversation. YawnyBlew, you participated before, so this is a great treat for us to have you back as a moderator. So thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thanks so much, Nick. I guess at this point, we can go around and have each speaker briefly introduce themselves with their name, pronouns, title, and a fun fact. Bill Coleman, did you want to kick this off?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Happy Pride to everyone. My pronouns are he, him, and I've been in the music business since 1986. Started off as a music journalist for Billboard magazine. Ventured off into starting my own company, Peace Biscuit, in 1990, discovered a group called Delight. I worked with an artist by the name of Alternate. I actually still work with her, and I've been fortunate enough to work with a number of artists throughout the years, from Madonna, Beyonce, queer artists such as Caswell, Amanda Lepore, Miss Lawrence, a number of things. We work with Lady Gaga. We've done some music supervision on a couple films that folks may know, like Party Girl or Party Monster, and happy to still be in the business. It's a tough road. So I'm always happy to be on panels like this where we can share some information, because information was not always shared with me while I was coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. EJ. Welcome.
Hey, everybody. My name is EJ Gemelli. I'm the CEO and founder of Crowd Management, and I focus on the branding, talent management, and music video and photo and video content production side of the music business. And I've worked with also a lot of the same people that Bill just mentioned. And I'm just honored to be here for some of the same reasons. When I first started, people didn't really want to help me get into this business. And I'm always happy to share any knowledge or ideas or thoughts that could help someone progress in their career. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, EJ. Amanda Molina.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, can everyone hear me? I just want to make sure. I'm in my mom's house in Sweden, so I want to make sure the service is good. Hi, I'm Amanda Molina. My pronouns are she, her. From Sweden, but based in Los Angeles, but I'm in Sweden now. I'm a pop artist, writer. Started my career in Sweden. Now I've been in LA for many years. I'm so excited to be here. I came out as gay 2 years ago, and my career has shifted really drastically for the better since coming out. So I'm very excited. Fun fact, I have a hairless cat and I got engaged last weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats. Awesome. Dapper Dan Midas.
Greetings, everyone, from the great city of Baltimore, Maryland. My name is DDM, also Dapper Dan Midas, if you want to know the spelling. I have been an indie artist in the warehouses, in the trenches, in the club scene for far too many years than I would like to remember. I've also recently started doing film work, acting in my first short film called Right Back, which went to Sundance, and it's now on Showtime, and that is currently in development. God willing, this writer's strike, works out. Please give people their money. When I first started out, it was tough. Gay then and gay now are two totally different types of gays, people, as it pertains to the music business in particular. But it is changing for the better, and I have a very much renewed sense of hope. So I'm very, very, very happy to be here in fellowship with everyone.
Thank you so much. Jack Finn. You're muted, Jack.
My bad, sorry. I was not muted before, I'm muted. Yeah, my name is Jack Finn and my pronouns are he, him. I've been doing music for God knows how long at this point. Started out in like rock bands and stuff, but at that point, I was only out as gay, and when I came out as trans masc, I ended up shifting more into the pop world, just to be able to kind of tell my story more and be able to speak for myself and stuff. And fun facts, I am learning how to screen print right now to make my own merch, and I tried to do that all by myself yesterday, and I failed miserably. So it's going to be a process.
Welcome. All right, Cow Wonder.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle Wonder. I'm from New York originally, but I live in Los Angeles, California. And yes, it is very much sunny out here, so we gay, because that June gloom was not it. I have been in the entertainment business for quite some time. Started out dancing and then eventually got into music with a group. It was a boy band of 4. Then I left to come to LA and a tragedy happened. That was the E True Hollywood story that I have in the future, hopefully. But I'm back to solo act. I sing, I dance, I write. I have a co-writer, songwriter, as a matter of fact. She's actually watching the panel right now. Thank you. Hi, Emily. And fun fact about me, outside of music and entertaining, I love horror movies. I'm diehard horror fan. Freddy Krueger being my favorite of all time. The old Freddy Krueger, not that new one. I don't know what he did with that one, but no. Robert Englund. So, hi everybody.
Thank you so much. Welcome. And Trent Park.
Hi everyone, I'm Trent Park, go by he, him, from New York. but live in Los Angeles currently. I've had a colorful, bumpy journey in this music industry game, but everyone has. But I started writing. I was a songwriter for a bunch of artists, then kind of grew into wanting to get more into the business side. I ended up working like with the Grammys, and I worked at Motown for a little bit. So did some label stuff, did some interview content stuff for Grammys. Realized I didn't get to do music as much as I could doing those jobs. So I kind of switched from songwriter and amplified my like talents to production. So I produce a lot of music now. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with a lot of people mentioned into Caswell, a lot of queer artists, a lot of RuPaul drag queens. I've since then managed a media company that grew into directing music videos. So I'm everything music and visuals and business within that aspect. I'm just obsessed with. Fun fact about me would be, what would a fun fact be about me? I don't have one. That's my fun fact. I dress in black always. That's a fun fact. Thanks, guys.
Thank you and welcome. YawnyBlew, you want to kick off the questions?
Yes, let's do it. Thank you all for being here. This is really, really awesome. Got to know so much about you through the fun facts already. So we're gonna dive in and just really
have I? I'm still half asleep. It's like 5 a.m. I'm dialing in from Sydney. I haven't forgotten anyone, have I? We've introduced everyone. Everyone's good, yeah?
Yes, that's right. We're all here. The cast is all here. Oh, okay, yeah. So we got some deep dive questions. This is a fun, safe space. So we're gonna kind of just pose them to the room and we'll jump around as we go from there. But to kick things off, and whoever wants to go first can go first. Tell us about your career and how your identity has impacted it. Let's go first.
Okay, well, I'll kick it off. Oh, wait, you want to go, Jack? Okay, I'll kick it off. Let's see. So I am 115% gay male. I forgot to get my pronouns in him. When I was growing up, of course, being gay, a gay Black male wasn't really so celebrated or trendy. So I kind of was scared to release all my creative endeavors. And I figured I just started out by dancing, right? Because nobody cares about the dance of sexuality, and you know, it is what it is. But throughout the years, as the trend started to build and acceptance and tolerance, even though I hate that word, kind of came across in the music industry, I started to go, okay, maybe I can kind of fit into this mold. And then when I got into my group, we were all four gay, and we was like, we're just gonna be the bad boys of pop music, and we were all Black and gay. So that was pretty cool and dynamic. And it kind of built that, I don't know, that confidence level. And I guess it's a plus for me. It's my superhero power. So I love being a Black gay man. I love experiencing things as a person of color. I love things as a man who likes men or romantically involved with men. And my music, my video, everything about me reflects both of those worlds kind of combined into one.
I love that. So you say you went to dancing first because you felt like there was more acceptance there before doing what you really wanted, which was to be a pop artist?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. This was before Frank Ocean decided to publicly come out as bisexual. And you know, it was one of those kind of best kept secrets. Like, you don't reveal your sexuality so upfront, at least back in the days, right? You want to appeal to the opposite sex. You want to appeal to women, especially being a Black man. You want to appeal women. And when the 90s kind of hip hop kind of dwelled out, and the New Jack Swing kind of going about, it was still like, yeah, you can be cool, but you still got like women. So when Frank came and kind of changed the game for us, like, man, okay, we're here. We were always here, actually. We just never put it out in front of display. And I think that kind of, now I don't have to hide no more. I don't have to just dance. I can show, I can sing, I can act. And, you know, my sexuality now is not going to be the focus of a huge negative. It's actually going to be, well, especially nowadays. So
That's dope. Thank you for sharing that. For those of you who did kind of go directly to what you wanted to do first and then came out after starting, could you share those journeys?
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, I feel like I've had a pretty interesting just journey in general with a lot of just different intersectionality. So when I first started music, I was super young and I really wanted to be in bands and stuff. And I wasn't even really out as gay at that point, but even when I was shortly after, I remember back when like Craigslist was the way to look for a band, the only way to look for a band really. I remember like reaching out and trying to audition for so many people, and there were so many people that you know, at that point in time didn't want to even engage with me because they perceived me as female. So before even being right out of the gate and not being out as trans masc or not even super focusing on my, you know, on my queer identity in any way, I was very quickly just X'd out from being worked with just by being perceived as female. So that was definitely really difficult. And then when I was out as gay, it wasn't particularly, you know, supported, or, you know, there wasn't as much, I guess, progress as we've made at that point in time. So it was definitely very hard, and you kind of get stuck in stereotypes. And I think it still happens, but like back then I was like, you're the butch lesbian. I'm like, that's your stereotype. And I would say it's interesting because when I did eventually come out as trans and decided to, you know, pursue just doing solo pop stuff on my own, I feel like I've gotten like maybe a little bit more attention or more acceptance, but to some degree it's bad in the sense that like I'm just like a novelty, and I still don't know how like seriously people are actually taking me, if that makes sense. So it's interesting. There's been like progress over time, and I've kind of experienced it from a couple different angles, but like on the trans representation front in music, it's like basically non-existent, even though there are artists that are great and like, you know, have somewhat sustainable careers. It's just not enough. And in terms of like mainstream pop, which was like my goal, is to help bring visibility, it's just like it doesn't exist other than like Kim Petras, and we all know that she had major investment backing to even make that like work. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Wow. Anybody else on that first question?
I'll just say that I think, like everyone here, there's an interesting backstory to all of us. For me, I was not out when I first started my career, but I learned, like a lot of us learn, whether it's the hard way or not, that, you know, your vibe attracts your tribe. And as soon as you start allowing yourself to work with people that are like-minded, and little by little you start creating a community of people that are like you in some way or have a similar mission, it starts to get easier. And that's what my experience was. The more I became actually comfortable with myself, I became more effective creatively and in my career. So I think that's where the success started to flow, because you know, I was not afraid to just open my mouth.
We need bumper stickers. Your vibe attracts your tribe. I think you should start selling those, EJ.
It's a little cliche, but you know, I had to throw it out there.
All right, I guess we'll move on to the next question. Feel free, anyone, just jump in. So do you feel like certain genres are more behind in representation or acceptance than others?
I think I can answer this one. I think hip hop, she's trying. She is trying. She is, you know, she is my auntie that, you know, I love dearly, but, you know, she's slow to progress. Okay. I think from a pop perspective, it's always kind of been like you can do pop a little bit more. I think it becomes a place where you're splitting hairs, because when you look at the music industry at large and we look at genres, right, which even genres, that whole concept is changing because everything's bleeding into each other. historically, you can kind of make it in pop, maybe on a European scale. I think the question really needs to become in the US, because in the US, it's a different ball game. On an international level, the playing field is a little different. In the US, we're playing on turf. Internationally, we're playing on natural grass. So there's a different kind of atmosphere. But Miss Hip Hop, she acknowledges that we're in the room now. Like, she can't ignore us now like she used to back in the day. But she still likes to digest LGBTQIA artists in a certain capacity. It's over the top still. I remember when I first started, because I came up in a battle scene. So I used to do battles in the beginning. That was how I made my name locally and how I made my money. And I remember when I came out, everybody just automatically thought that I was going to become this thing. And eventually I did become this thing, but she assumed that off the rip. So I got kind of, excommunicated from the local community, which was actually a big help because it forced me to go outside of my bubble, right? But with hip hop music, it's still, queer people are still viewed as a sideshow. And you know what makes me mad is that in hip hop, they love the lingo, right? So when you look at specifically, I'm going to say gay Black men in our relationship to hip hop music, we live for female artists. We live for a female rapper because I always say this, they're like avatars for us. So we see in them what we could potentially do. As a result, and this is not to hate on anyone, but we're gonna have a real conversation. They make more money off of our culture than we do. From the lingo to the styling, it's like Lotto has a record called It's Giving, where that's a gay man's record. It's Giving, and you slide Saucy in at the end to talk his we can't curse on his SH Shagani Ice Day. And but outside of that, I want to see queer people benefiting off of queer culture in hip hop. I don't want to see us, our culture, our looks, our mannerisms, our verbiage being used by another person, and we still stuck doing hair and opening for you. Absolutely not. I'm over it. And I think that's the difference. Now, in the pop sphere, and I don't want to ramble, but in the pop sphere, okay, there's a little bit more, but I feel like even in pop, we're still getting there. There's always a voice of that generation. So you have Elton, you have George Michael, you have Boy George, and then you move up, and now we have Sam Smith. But in Adam from American Idol, I forget his name. Oh my God, y'all know who I'm talking about.
Adam Lambert.
Adam Lambert, I think he was too early. And I think Adam Lambert, are we still here? Am I still here? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Sorry, my bad. Zoom, she tries it. Adam Lambert was a little too early, in my opinion, because Adam Lambert, in my opinion, should be huge. But at the time, with the American Idol platform, you're now locked into a certain type of aesthetic. So we pick somebody who we don't even know who the person that won his season is. If I had a gun held to my head, I would just be dead at this point. So we have to look at all of those different things. And I don't mean to hijack the conversation, but I think it's just so different for everything.
No, we need that. And I appreciate you sharing your point of view, because it is so valid, especially you coming from hip hop and that being a genre that is historically homophobic. I mean, I think most genres have a history, because we can talk about country, we can talk even pop music. Did anybody else want to speak on their specific genre before we move to the next question?
I just wanted to say in general that in terms of genres being behind, I've found it really depends on what you gauge as being successful. And if you're comparing your success to a Lady Gaga, then yeah, things are going to be behind. I also see that within a variety of different genres, that the queer community is not always the biggest supporter of the queer artists. So there's not a blanket here. I'd love to say that we're all just kumbayaing each other and supporting and lifting each other up. It's not the case. So I think we have to be conscientious of within genres. Yes, specifically, you can kind of like put a grid. But I also think that there's a place where we as a community have to be clear on what we consider successful. And also, when you're pioneering a genre, if you're first in, you might not be successful. You're mentioning Sam
Smith.
Sam Smith. I'm old enough where I remember Sam Harris from back Sugar Don't Bite, signed to Motown. He was the first Sam from like a vocal Star Search, queer, could sing his ass off. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's always somebody, and I often find in our community, particularly because things are so transient and everybody knows everything about everything, not enough people know the history of all of who's like in line. And I feel like that's really important, because if you are first in line in a genre, you might not be as successful. Kim Petras is standing on a couple people's shoulders. So I like to, I don't like to dissuade people's success, but I also like to make sure that we are conscious that, like, if you're first in the door, you might not get that platinum thing, but you're just as important. So I just wanted to just throw that out there.
I love that you said that, Bill. I'm going to piggyback on it really quick, because I think that you're absolutely right about how we perceive what success is. It also has a lot to do with the fact that it's hard for someone that's first, or people like us, people on this chat right now, to access the resources it takes to get the attention of our community, because we're obsessed with quality, high-end, beautiful things. That's what breaks through the noise. And if we quiet our minds and our ears a little bit from the radio or it's on television, we often discover people like a lot of the people that are on this chat right now that have really amazing music that broke their ass, sorry from my mouth, to make it. And it's actually better than what we're listening to on the radio. So I agree with you 100% about the perception of success versus what quality and success really looks like.
Can I chime in real quick? I agree that with both of you guys, you are 100% right. I especially agree with my friend with the Prince thing in the background. Just love this Prince and Janet thing going. Yeah, I agree with you, especially with support, because with the mainstream queer artists that are out, example, Lil Nas X, if you look at his audience is not mostly queer, it's mostly heterosexual fan base. If you look at Saucy Santana, and this really blew my mind, because Saucy, I love him. He's just everything. He's so over, so extra the top, and he is just not afraid to be who he is. And I've been following him since loving hip hop. So I've been following his journey. But I went to the LA Fashion Week a couple of months ago, and he was performing. And I was so shocked out of my mind to see all of these women running to the stage and go see. And I'm like, wait, I thought he was ours. Like, what's happening here? But no, he has majority heterosexual fan base too. So I do think it needs to be a little bit more support within the queer community for the queer artists. And I just want to know, why is it the way it is? Like, we, as you said, we have great music. We tune in, we support each other, we love each other. So why is it so distant, I guess?
I would chime in a little bit, like someone like Saucy, who I'm also a very huge fan of, over the last 2 years got signed to RCA Records and assigned to a major label. And regardless of whether you're a queer artist or not a queer artist, a lot of these labels or people who may be able to instill some support or access that EJ was referring to, they want to know that you have a fan base. It's not any different for you or me or some rock band or whatever that has to get out there and do the work, show that they have fans, can book a show, do shows and stuff like that. I feel like again, with the advent of social media and everyone being fierce and going virtual, a lot of folks don't think that they have to do any work and think that they can just put out a song and be famous, or don't have to book any shows or do tours or actually build fans. It's like a lot of the rock bands or alternative bands that come out that do tours, they may have been doing this for 10 years before you actually see them, or we see them or hear them on the radio and stuff like that. And I often feel like sometimes, not saying all the time, I feel like our community feels like they want to skip that little step of like, getting out in the trenches and sometimes having to perform in places that that aren't fierce and fabulous, and you just get out there. But that's how you make your fans. So when you put out that new single, when you put out that new video, pop, 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 when those numbers come up, I guarantee you somebody's looking to see like, okay, how'd that video do? How'd that song do, et cetera, so on and so forth. Or at least you have something when you're at the saucy level. When you have a few things, you can go to an RCA and be like, look, I'm happening just as much as this act over here. Why am I not signed? And then you actually have the receipts. I feel like we need to be conscious of also just building our receipts. And that's what I meant a little bit referring to about like us supporting our own community. It's like so many of our compatriots and acts and stuff like that come out with stuff and very rarely get the support. It's like I can look at queer media and they're writing about everyone else. Meanwhile, someone that we may know may have a new record out, and I'm like, where's the review or the post about this? And it's like, it's not there. And then you talk about access again, like what EJ was talking about, like if you can't afford to hire a publicist to get Queerty to write about your thing, isn't it their responsibility as part of the community to, help build up folks that maybe don't have those resources and money to kind of like put into the machine? Anyway, I could go on.
And stop making a list of like 40 of us in a roundup piece that's like checking a box. Yeah.
I was going to ask you guys, actually piggybacking off of all of that, and thank you all for sharing. What comes up most often in these conversations, it does feel like there is a divide between like the mainstream music industry and sort of like a queer music industry, where like the drag performers, a lot of the trans performers that we see at prides or at our local clubs kind of get celebrated. But then when it comes to the mainstream, they're just props in the videos. And I've noticed this a lot just in this Pride Month, going to different panels, just actual music industry based panels. And all I'm seeing is other songwriters and producers, but I'm not seeing the artists that are actually out in the streets pushing the culture forward. So I would love to ask you guys, in your journeys, have you noticed a divide between queer people in the music industry and the queer music industry? And I would actually love to hear from Trent, because I know you've been working with a lot of like drag performers and you bounce around. So if you want to take that question first and lead us off.
Yeah, I mean, it's a complex question because I've recently been in I've been blessed to be able to work with a lot of drag queens. I just worked with Alaska last week, and we kind of like had a little chat about kind of like the performances of like how they're so, the queer community really embraces itself within the queer construct of like drag shows, but like externally, people aren't listening to the singles that drag queens put out. They're not listening to like the typical type music, but when they're in the club or in the venue, they're all about it. They're popping the fans, all of that stuff. So I think it kind of circles back to like what success is and like the live version of like being.
Oh, did we lose Trent?
Did we lose?
I lost him. Amanda, I'd love to hear from you as well, actually, because I know you started on more of a mainstream level and you weren't out, and you've since come out. How do you feel like you've kind of fallen between the cracks of like queer music industry and the industry, or like what has that transition been like for you?
Yeah, but honestly, it's been by choice for me. As like a femme presenting, when I started doing music, I was out as bi, but very closeted still, and was dating men, and was like, everybody thought that I was very straight. So I was definitely, in the just mainstream music side of things. which honestly was very uncomfortable for me as, I mean, obviously a closeted lesbian woman, but just a woman in general. Obviously, most powerful people in the industry are cis, heterosexual, white men. And as a woman, that was always, sorry for my language, but so fucked up because I was always sexualized, right? It was always like, hey, you know, I want to work with you, but they always had something in the back of my mind, right? And that was something that I had to deal with a lot. I know this is far away from the question you asked, but when I came out, which was not that long ago, it was by choice that I was like, well, all of a sudden now I know why I'm doing music. I know what I want to say with my music. I know I want to write about. Before I didn't know why I was so lost. I didn't know why it was hard for me to find my niche. Not to say that every queer person has to have their niche of being queer, right? But I feel like we have such important stories to tell. So after coming out, I just felt that the queer community is, personally for me, the audience that I do want to cater to. I feel safer, I feel accepted. I feel like now when I'm more authentic with what I'm singing about, it's just become like 100% so much more successful than what it was before. So I think that it's like, I want queer people to be in the mainstream music side just as straight people, right? That's where we want to be. But then on my side, I also love that we have this queer music side, that it's like, you know, our community is so supportive, because I also feel like a lot of my songs are very explicit. Like one of my most popular songs is just about lesbian sex, and it went viral everywhere. Like everybody loved that song. It's one of my most sexual, but all straight people are uncomfortable. Meanwhile, they listen to all the straight sex songs on radio, right? So funny to me. Makes me like so annoyed. But so that's why I feel so comfortable. Like the queer audience, like they're so supportive. And I feel like personally for me, like when I have the queer audience on my side, then I know that we can also cater to the rest, you know, that are still, most people, or not most, but many people are very homophobic. They're not very, you know, progressive. They're not accepting. So, I mean, we're going to get there, but I do feel like for me personally, it was a choice. Like, I'm like, now I know my audience. This is where I feel safe, like when I'm telling my stories.
That's really good that you feel that way, because I know that a lot of people don't always necessarily feel support even within their own community. So I'm happy for you. That's really great. Does anyone else have anything to add on that point?
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna be the devil's advocate on this panel, but as far as queer music industry, and I've been in it for a minute, I would have to say it's a little bit, as far as the business end, sometimes it can be perceived as a little bit like crabs in a barrel. So oftentimes, I'm not saying this is all the time, sometimes the queer music executives have not been the people who've been helping me because they perceive you as a threat to their jobs or what they're doing. So because the industry is an industry and it's a business, they're only letting a few folks in. And so if you start coming up and you're doing your own thing and et cetera, so on and so forth, you also have to be careful that some people may perceive you as like kind of a threat and not necessarily want to kind of maybe help you as much as you would think that they would want to help you, because you have this, you know, we're queer, we're in the music business, we want to do this, and go team. And sometimes it's not like that. So I just put that out there just a little bit. And, you know, I don't want to be sort of like negative Nancy, but this is a panel. So I want to kind of show,
that was something I was trying to say earlier that like clicked in my brain is, I mean, it's really great that you feel supported by the queer community, but I think that, and maybe it's specific types of queer people, like, I don't know, but definitely from the like trans masc side. And I also, from what little I've seen on the trans femme side, I think, and then maybe just more overarchingly on the trans side, is there is, it's interesting, right? People are supportive, but there's also that competition that's going on. And that's just because of perceived scarcity. And as a trans person, right, we're all, which is stupid and it shouldn't be this way. And I hope that like we can get out of this like lock we're in. But right now, what it feels like is everyone's trying to scratch to the surface to become that one token. And that's hard when there's a lot of talent out there, and there shouldn't be more than one token. But right now it seems like there's only maybe one seat at the table and everyone's fighting each other for it. So it's like we're happy when we see other artists doing well, but at the same time, then like you have to fight your jealousy, right? And I know I'm not the only trans artist that deals with this. And you have to bite your tongue and you have to go be supportive, but not everyone is going to bite their tongue and go be supportive. Like you're dealing with a lot of split emotions here. And it's not the other artist's fault. It's like not really your fault. It's because society has put us in this position. It's really difficult, at least from the trans perspective, I think, when everyone's just trying to be that one person. And right now people see, well, Kim Petras is the one person for that. So.
Yeah, I would also just add to that again, that queer music business also tends to be quite youth oriented. I'm 58 years old and very proud 58, and I've been in this business for a long time, and I work with a lot of different people across lots of genres, but like no one wants my opinion. It's not even, do you know what I'm saying? It's like I have to create my own sort of business and, you know, connections and nurture relationships and stuff. But like you know, even like basically, you know, EJ mentioned these lists that they put out occasionally at the end of the year and stuff like that. I guarantee you most of these people are like under 40. Do you know, so there's a little bit of ageism, I think, in our community, particularly when it comes to music and relevancy of music. So I just throw that out there as well as something that, you know, these are walls that get chipped down. They get chipped down by being the first in the door. They get chipped down by like, you know, making your own table for folks to sit at and things of that nature. So just.
Well, thank you, Bill. That's actually a really great point. It's something that I've struggled with a lot, just dealing with different, you know, being a Black artist, being an R&B vocalist, being a rapper. A lot of times I don't fit neatly into the molds that are created, or at least that are most popular for queer artists. Like you said, there's an age thing, there sometimes can be a race thing, there's a genre thing. So just let's speak on that a little bit more. Like, do you all feel like, or what do you think we can do to create more inclusivity for queer artists so that we are being more represented, so that when they do that one list of 10 artists, they're not all cis white pop artists. There are different types of artists that they're putting out, or different types of genres. Like how can we, I know you mentioned creating our own table, but just who wants to speak on that further? Just like that struggle of sort of like, you know, you've come out finally, or you're embracing your identity in your music, and you get over here and it's like, you know, there kind of is no world for me. And I find places where I do feel accepted. And Amanda, actually, we did a show together in April, right? Queer Cafe, where she gave me an incredible pep talk before my set. And I was like, oh,
you were incredible. I have to say, like, everybody was blown away.
Thank you. You were amazing. Your cover of Toxic, insane. But that was one of the few spaces since I've come out where I was like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. I haven't always had that with playlists or with articles and stuff like that. So who would like to speak on that?
I'll start really quick. I think it's a layered question, but I'll just start with the fact that we were curated to speak here in a way that works to answer this question as a visible expression of that. We are a diverse group of people that have a lot of different backgrounds, stories, and experiences. And when you put people like this group at a table to make decisions and create space, then we think of a lot more people than people that are just like us. And that's just a natural thing. I consider myself very open-minded. I love a lot of different types of people, but I cannot be responsible to think for everyone that's like me. And I can't be responsible to think for everyone that's not like me. So when we choose decision makers and when we create spaces, we need to think about other people besides ourselves.
Can I add to that? I think in the beginning of this conversation, what I love about Nick is your tribe. Your vibe creates your tribe. I think to conquer this problem that's happening, create a community. We are a group of people, right? We all sharing similar but different life experiences. Let's get together. Let's vibe. Let's network authentically. And I think that Crabs in a Barrel has come our way in the queer community, especially performing wise. And I'm not sure who's going to talk about this, but our resources are becoming limited because of the heterosexual counterparts that are coming in, right, to our community, because the gay community, the LGBTQ plus community accepts everybody. We accept everybody, all inclusive. But the secret is out. So a lot of our counterparts are coming in and they're kind of sucking up a little bit of the resources that we have. And yes, I love what Jack said yesterday when he said that, you know, we need that big platform of the people that is coming in to kind of latch us on. But at the same time, it's so much congested and combusted into this platform. We don't have a space to live. And the little bit that we get now, we're fighting each other as opposed to supporting each other. So I just support your fellow man, support, hang out. You can ignore one, but you can't ignore 20, 25, 30, 35, you know? And I guess I'm all about family and unity. That's how I was born. That's how I was raised. That's what I push. That's what I promote. So, you know, it takes maybe coming to a show, speaking about it, sharing each other's music, like the little things that you can do that doesn't necessarily require a budget, just requires some of your mental health, your mental headspace. I think that's what we can kind of conquer, maybe.
Just to piggyback off that, does anyone feel free to jump in, do you feel like mainstream straight artists are actually taking away from queer performers when they headline pride events and that sort of thing?
Here's the thing.
Give it to us.
When it comes to that, I agree with what Bill was saying about fan base and money a lot. It comes down to the coins. And, you know, we live for a sickening bitch and she's going to get booked. And that's just the reality. And that's something where us as a community, and that spans racial demographics, identifying, you know, demographics, we all live for that. And we have to be honest with ourselves and admit that we live for that. We live for a Megan Thee Stallion at LA Pride. Also, too, as much as it's interesting because as much as queer culture has entered the mainstream stratosphere, we still live for a cosign. We live for when a celebrity comes to a ball and have no knowledge on how it's supposed to work, but then we get mad when they chop somebody who they shouldn't have chopped. You know, we set ourselves up for that. On the flip side of that, you know, girls, we have to, you know, channel our ancestors and get a little bit more resourceful. You know, we can't be coming out here, you know, and not giving what it needs to give, okay? So, you know, if you supposed to be that girl, then you gotta look like that girl. You gotta give, the mix gotta be that girl. The master gotta be that girl. The look gotta be that girl. And the reality is that do take money. It do take coins. But when we look at these concerts and things like that, we are a culture slightly birthed in aesthetic, right? So when we look at ourselves from dating to fashion to how we present in music and film, that's kind of our own fault. Because even when they book parties, let's think about it. Y'all don't all did parties, right? They coming in there to have a good time to dance. I almost have anxiety when I book a party that's a dance party because I feel like I'm disrupting the groove versus giving a show. So you do your little 5, maybe 10 minutes, more than 10 minutes, you're trying it. But you do your little 5 to 10 minutes and you just hope that somebody likes it. So I think it ultimately comes down to the money. I think also too, I really love what Bill said about aging as queer people. For some reason, we all live in this wonderland where, you know, being gay stops at 30. Like after that, you're not gay. You're just like this person that lives in an island by themselves. You're just not in queer culture. And I think that from Hollywood to music, we need to start writing stories about what does it feel like to be a person born in the 80s and now you're 30 plus, pushing 40. What does that look like now? Nobody's writing that story. What does it look like to be, you know, an established gay man and you see the young kids that don't listen, but you still time enough for them. Nobody's writing that story. When we start getting those stories and people are comfortable enough to live in them, then we'll see changes in how we're represented and what people will accept. Because right now, and there's no shade, there's a lot of older gays who still profiting off of youth culture in the gay world, and they want to keep it that way because that's how they make their money.
Reach on it. EDM.
I would just piggyback on that a little bit. As I manage Ultranate, who is not gay and has performed at Prides for 30 years. And so in terms of sort of like taking the queer coins and mainstream artists, she's not mainstream like a Beyonce, but she's had some pop success and gets asked back. I think it's important that what our community requests of the artists that we are willing to support is that they are also allies. Ultra is an ally. She has always been an ally. She's been an outspoken ally when it wasn't, you know, of the moment and popular culture. So I think that that is what you have to have a little bit of a balance, because yeah, you know, it's like, I want to see Megan Thee Stallion come and kick it too. But I also want to make sure that Megan Thee Stallion got my back when she's not at Pride. Do you know what I'm saying? Those are sort of the key things. I would also say, and I say this with all due respect to my drag queen friends, the advent of celebrity has taken up a lot of space when it comes to bookings at queer spaces, because everyone wants folks that are on TV. So a younger act, even a local act, might not get booked at their own Pride because blah, 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 drag queen winner, blah, 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 is coming in and is asking for X amount of coins. So I think that there has to be some sort of, you know, community balance, whereas like, okay, do we have 3 drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race, or do we have 2 and then we use that extra fee and support some local talent? I think that's where I see a lot of, just as someone who kind of deals with bookings and stuff as well for acts, I see a lot of that, particularly during Pride season. So.
Thank you, Bill. We're gonna transition now to our Q&A section because we do have a couple of questions from the people that have been tuning in. Let's see here. Chaos Barnes asks, as an advocate for the LGBTQ community, I've dedicated nearly 12 years to studying and promoting Yo LGBT Raps. I'm familiar with that platform. Okay, yes. So they're asking more specifically why is there a lack of inclusion surrounding Black masculine presenting women, and I think really masculine presenting women in general in these conversations and in sort of the visibility when we talk about drag performers and the different types of artists that are most visible. A lot of the masculine presenting women are not as visible. Why do we think that is, and who feels comfortable speaking on that?
I don't want to speak. I was about to say, I thought I was going to give, you know, a little time, but I don't want to hijack because I've been talking a lot. But you know, Yanni, you know how I am. Here's
kind of this question though, because like you said, there is an obsession with the extravagance of it all, and by nature, anybody masculine presenting is not as extravagant. And especially somebody who is, you know, masculine presenting female artists are not always going to be like the Saucy Santanas, or like, I mean, we had Missy who kind of turned it up, but she wasn't openly queer, or like, I don't know. Is it not just, it's not as interesting to people maybe?
I think when we look at it, right, there's a certain way that it has to be presented, and this is just my opinion, what I gather, right? It's a certain way that it has to be presented for the masses to get behind it. So when we think masculine presenting women, because I have friends who are drag kings who encounter this a lot. And yes, Kyle, speak on it. And a lot of times they do get a hard way to go. I think it goes down to women, or the female body or female assigned body is always going to be viewed by the masses in a sexual way, in a hypersexual way. And even if you're giving mask presenting woman, it still has to have an air of femininity to it in order for people to, the mass, to digest it, even in our own community, right? You look at somebody like a Tiana Taylor or somebody like Angelina Jolie in Tomb Raider or something like that. It still has to have an air of beauty and like feminine sexuality to it in order for it to work. For some reason, if it's not that, when you look at people like a Missy Elliott, okay, yeah, Missy Elliott I like Missy's approach to sex because Missy did talk about sex in her records, but the way that she presents is so ostentatious and out of this world. It's just different. But then you look at people like Da Brat. When we look at Da Brat's debut, when she first came out, first female rapper to go platinum, and she did have a very tomboy aesthetic in the beginning. It was very much that. It didn't hurt that she also had what is perceived as a pretty feminine face.
Right.
So
like,
I think that it
to
just, say it again, Yanni, I'm sorry.
saying it feels like there always has to be a
And a
level
best friend named Mariah Carey.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah, there's a code. There's the people that you were mentioning had cosigns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They were co-signed. It was like, it was okay to like Da Brat. It was okay to like Missy. Queen Latifah, again, I'm an old bitch, so I can go back to Katie Lang. I can go back to Frank. There's alternative and country artists. Katie Lang had a hard way to go. She came out, lesbian, mask presenting, and I think that, you start talking, I mean, this could rear off into a whole other conversation about like the male gaze and whether it's queer male gaze or cis male gaze, how that influences what is quote unquote acceptable in terms of a female presenting, women presenting, mask presenting, etc., so on and so forth. I think that, it's a very layered conversation. But when you're talking mainstream, to me, it's like we have a long way to go when it comes to really accepting folks for their talent and art first, without putting them in these sort of pre-assigned boxes in order for me to feel comfortable. I'm putting that in quotes, obviously.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in many rooms where branding decisions are made to not make someone visible before the art, for all of these reasons. And here we are in this, I take it back. We are a diverse group, but we forgot to make room for this person. And it's not something that anyone did on purpose. It's something that happened. And now that it's been brought up, we know to correct it, right? So next year, we know we have work to do for inclusion, not to disrespect the hard work that you, Nick, and other folks behind you put to bring us together, because we appreciate it. But it's just something that came up and it's like, oh yeah, we should do that. Of course. And we're all nodding yes, so we all agree, right? So it's like, let's just change that. That was a slip up. And being okay to say sorry, like we're sorry that someone is not here to answer that question from a lived experience, because I can't answer that question from a lived experience. But I love people with that lived experience, and I have friends that present that way, that I probably should have suggested. So, I'm sorry that we didn't.
Present as an ask, you're saying, but being feminine?
Yeah, present as the lived experience that they are bringing up right this minute, as possibly a mass presenting lesbian artist, that it does not have the intersectionality that you have, that you bring from a different perspective. You've kind of had multiple intersectionalities that cross over what we're talking about right now, which is great. But you and that other person could have a different conversation than I could have with you, Jack, from lived experience. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. We're gonna hop into one more Q&A because it covers several questions. So What would artists and music execs like yourselves want to see the LGBTQ+ do to foster more platforms that create spaces for each other? If anyone wants to jump in real quick.
Okay, so this is just me just throwing out there, just like all of the queer, capitalism that comes in, right? And everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon and do their, their pride campaigns. Why aren't we, if that's happening with brands, why can't artists be making that initiative during queer, if that's the only time we get, right, for now, until things get better? Why aren't there big artists making initiatives like that too? We're like, okay, I'm picking a queer artist to work with this Pride season, and I'm going to do a drop with them. And every year, like larger artists to do that lift, like you're saying, why don't they make that commitment? Like there has to be, someone has to take the first step. And I know people are scared to do things for different reasons, whether it's monetary, whether it's their own brand. Like, look at, we see all this backlash that's happened this year with, Dylan Mulvaney and like things like that, at least on the trans side. So like, I get it, there's a lot of risk there, but I mean, there's also money to be made, right? Like they could make money if they did a collab like that. People will probably go off the wall. So
I think that goes back to, I can't remember who said it, but in numbers, there's come first. So if it's one person co-signing, it's a difficult lift, because there's a lot of people behind them that depend on that income and depend on that machine that they've built. So if we could get multiple machines to do that, I feel like that would be a really great way to see something cool happen, like you're suggesting. I mean, it's a brilliant idea.
Agreed. Took the words right out of my mouth.
I feel like we could probably talk for 3 hours, but unfortunately we have to wrap this up. This is so disappointing. I want to just continue, but I wanted to just thank everyone so much for joining. Thank you to YawnyBlew, the MLC, all of the panelists, the speakers. Thank you. You all are wonderful. I wanted to give everyone an opportunity to go around. If they wanted to plug a project, their socials, please put it in the chat as well, so everyone can see it and follow you and keep up with all the exciting work that you're doing. But feel free to jump in if anyone has anything they want to pitch to the masses. Let's hear it.
I mean, I recently dropped some music and music videos that I'm super proud of and put way too much money in to make happen. So maybe some other people out there will enjoy them.
I'm a huge supporter of everybody here, so definitely check you guys out. Currently, right now, at the moment, I have the Santa Barbara County Fair. I'm performing July 15th. So if you guys are in Santa Barbara or going to the county fair, please come see me. I give the performance of a lifetime. So I would love to see your familiar faces. Or if you want to just meet up locally in Los Angeles, I'm super down to talk, have more of these conversations, or just vibe. I think that's what's needed. Yeah, definitely love that vibe. So that's what I would say. And awesome meeting everybody.
I would just say, I don't have anything particular to plug. You can check us out on our socials at Peace Biscuit. I would just say to those that are listening, thank you again for having me be part of this panel. I would just say, go through the business of music with a bit of humility and grace, and do your best not to burn bridges of people that support you on your way up, and get to know the business of music.
Yep.
We all love a fierce. We love it. It's all good, but get to know the business of music. It can be a treacherous place. And as queer people, as people of color, I'm telling you, they're not going to tell you all the ins and outs. You have to learn them. You can make friends with folks. Nico and EJ are relatively new colleagues of mine, and we have definitely had to band together and sort of, fight some battles together. And that's how you talk about building your tribe. It's like you find people that are simpatico. So I would just say for folks that are listening, be fierce. Get out there, serve it up, but know the business of music and know where you fit within it, within a context, and do it with grace and humility, and be grateful. You know, we are standing on a lot of people's shoulders. There's a whole middle-aged queer art community that no longer exists because they died of AIDS when I was coming up. So there's a lot of folks that would love to be sitting here or making music or art or video and stuff like that. They didn't make it. So we're here. So I just wanted to make sure that folks remember that. Thank you.
I want to piggyback off. That. Thank you guys so much for having me part of this. It's such a blessing to be part of a conversation, but also be a creative. We talked about a lot of the business and the community, but it really starts with your learned experience. It starts with your music. It starts with your craft and your passion. Whatever you're bleeding about, whatever you're crying about, put that in your music. Be authentically yourself. There's no one like you and your learned experience. And you know, this is a very amazing panel, but you know, we won't be able, sometimes there's not included people that we would like to include. As that person, if you see yourself that's not within a panel, not within an environment, really focus and just, you know, invite yourself, be part of that. So I just want to say that and be patient with yourself. You know, we are making strides. These conversations make stride. Hopefully, I was inspired. I sat back and listened to a lot of what everyone else was saying. And I forgot I was on the panel, but just, I hope you guys are inspired. In terms of like what I'm doing, I'm always creating, I'm produce music, working with like 8 or 9 artists currently. But I always direct music videos. They come out on my socials at Trent Park. Message me. I love gaining a new community. I love conversations like this. And yeah, I'm super encouraged. And I hope you guys get at least a glimpse, whether you agree or don't agree, some sense of growth within this panel. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys so much for having me too. This is my second queer panel. It's really fun. I loved what everyone had to say. To talk about my own work, I have a single coming out on the 30th. And in September, I'm releasing my first album, which is fully sapphic, about my coming out journey, where I am now. And it's just very, very lesbian. So thank you. Super excited about that. So yeah, thank you for having me. It was awesome.
I'll jump in just to say, I don't have anything I specifically want to plug, but there's so much more I want to know about you guys. And I hope that we can stay in touch on socials. I've already started stalking some of you and downloading your music. And one thing that I try, and I've gotten better about this over the years to do, is that I also get to wear the hat of producer on music videos that are not queer, that do have budgets. And that's where I make some of my money. And I try always to push, even when there's pushback, to hire queer people of excellence. And we have to keep opening doors for each other as well, and be really, really specific about that and stating the words to decision makers that that's why it matters to us, because no one did it for us. And we want to do it for the people behind us or next to us or even above us. Sometimes people are non-projects that really need to be there. So I've been trying to really be good at that. And I want to get to know you guys so that I can be conscious of how to do that authentically as well. And, you know, I just want more people to be doing that. So that's all I'm going to say. And thank you for having me. Thank you, Nick, for thinking of me, because I'm not totally an artist, but I work with a lot of artists and I love this business. And it was a dream of mine to work in it. And I'm very grateful to be here.
Yeah. Who we missing? DDM, did you go already?
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
So currently developing a show based on the short, and I'm finishing up my new project, Apocalypse Era, which should be out soon. It's like a punk industrial with like tinges of pop. You already heard some of it. I gotta sing you some more stuff because we've had developments. But yeah, and you can follow me at Midas. I put my link in the social. I've already followed everybody on here.
All right. Thank you all for participating. This has been a great panel. This is our third edition at the MLC, Tuning into Pride. Thank you, Nick and YawnyBlew, for moderating this wonderful panel, and everyone who tuned in and listened and contributed to the Q&A. Thank you so much. So happy Pride, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your month.
Happy Pride.
Thanks.
Thank you guys so much.
Happy Pride. Pride is every day.
Pride, be safe, be
Happy
safe, be
Pride.
safe. Bye.